What's going on, everyone? This is Token Gaijin with your scrub play of the day here on Scrubcraft. Now, you're going to see something a little bit different. I have been promising you that I will be playing other races, and here I am fulfilling that promise. Here is me spawning up here at the top right as the Zerg, and my partner in crime, as always, Deathwraith. Now, I've been I've been playing as random recently a lot, so I'm actually going to be bringing you two games in this episode. They're not going to be separated by different links. They're all in the same YouTube video, in which I play Zerg and Terran. And I'm going to be trying to play random a lot more often, so you're going to be seeing a lot of mixing of races in my 2v2 gameplay. So, to start things off, it looks like we know we were playing a Terran and a Zerg. So we were kind of hesitant as to what the Zerg might be doing, because Zerg usually either do an early play or a late play in a fast expand. So I want to get it down to this early pool. Now, 10 pools are usually used for cheeses, and yes, I am going to try to poke in and cheese, but I like to use the 10 pool more as defense and offense as opposed to cheesing, because the reason I say defense and offense is it gives you early units as a Zerg, and it gives you the ability to defend, because, I mean, Zealots and Marines are a lot more powerful than Zerglings, so if you send a lot of Zerglings outside their base, they're going to start to turtle up, or they're going to start to fear an oncoming attack, and if you keep that fear in them, they're going to start making some stupid decisions and some bad mistakes. So I like to get my 10 pull out when I play 2v2, because it likes... Like I said, it likes to scare the enemy into doing stupid mistakes, and sometimes I can just end the game quickly. So, I do have my overlords running around the map, trying to get some scouting down. I get in my pull down, so I'm going to start getting Zerglings, and I'm going to direct them right to here. And since I am the Zerg, Deathwraith actually got that scouting, and he's going to show me where the break in their wall is. This is really important because it allows me to rally my troops either right through the wall, or... just simply put, it lets me know that the wall is not completed and that I can slip in. Now, I like to also do 10 pull usually against other Zerg, because Zerg versus Zerg in 2v2, usually one of the Zerg is going to go a 10 pull or a 6 pull, and I don't like to do a 6 pull because it's way too economically risky. So, you're taking it from me, 10 pull is a lot more sound just to do, because it gives you that time to build up minerals, and if they do the 6 pull, they're going to be really stressed on minerals themselves, and you'll be able to defend against it. So I've got my nice little first trove of Zerglings coming on the way to poke at their wall, and unfortunately it was finished by the Terran. He saw that the scout get on, and he was just like, oh my god, but you know what, I really don't care. I'm going to kill this SCV, and I'm just going to stay outside here and trap him. I did not see the other SCV out there, so I didn't get the chance to kill him, but he's going to get this Marine out, and while I can't keep poking at this wall, this Marine can easily call these Zerglings. I mean, he's got all damn day, and he's got these SCVs repairing the bunker, so I'm just going to be like, well, whatever, I'll just stop you from expanding, and I'll just move down here. So, since I know I can't get into their wall, and I know that either this Zerg is going to go try and beat me with Speedlings, or he's going to go straight into Roaches, I can safely expand, because if he's going for the Roach tech, he's going to have to tech up, and if he's going for Speedlings, I already have more out than he does, and plus, at this point in the game, you know, Deathwraith can pump out Zealots if need be, so... you know, trying to deal with my Speedlings is probably not in his best in his best interest with, or not really Speedlings, it's Zergling. I don't have Speedlings yet, neither is he. It's really not in his best interest to try and poke out with Zergling versus Zergling. So he's going to go for these Roaches, which is actually a very smart play, but it doesn't really even matter because I'm going to get this second base, and since I'm going to have an extra econ, I too am also going to be able to punch out Roaches. And I'm going to be able to pump out Roaches a lot faster than he is, because I want to be mining off of 2 bases, which is going to give me a bit of an edge. Now, he could poke out at this time, but, you know, he's playing it very safe and standard. I mean, we just poked at his wall. They're afraid I'm going to be coming back, and it doesn't look like they're trying to prepare for a Baneling bust. But I'm not going for that anyway, because while Banelings are amazing, you know, it's kind of econ intensive, especially in the early game, and plus Roaches and Stalkers are just an amazing force. So that's what we're going to be going for. So I got my Roach Warren down here. I'm getting double Extractor at my main, and my second base at my natural has spawned, and so I'm going to start mining off of that. Deathwraith is playing it extremely standard, and he decides to go for a 4-gate. And the reason why he doesn't stick with his 3-gate robo is simple. I poked out. We know that they're going to be trying to mass troops now, so we're just going to mass up a giant force and hit them early on and try to end the game. And I really don't know why he destroyed his base so prematurely. I only had 2 Zerglings down. He could have just dropped this wall and killed them and kept getting that base out, but you know what? Give me the advantage if you want to, because that is just going to be wasted time and some wasted minerals. I mean, you do get some back, but you know, those little minerals that will help to deter you. So I'm just going to have my Zerglings poke around because I don't want them to expand. I want to make sure that the Zerg of all of our opponents, which, I mean, there's only 2, but I want to make sure he doesn't expand more so than the Terran. The Terran expanding might be a bit frightening, but, I mean, a Zerg, when they start getting econ up, they're able to get more troops out. I don't want him to get a second hatchery, especially outside of his base. I mean, I really can't stop a second hatchery in the base, but he's really not going for one, so I'm in the clear right there. And I'm going to send an overload over here to scout. And the reason I'm sending an overload here to scout is because Stalkers have incredible range, and even though these Marines can pick off my Overlord, which is kind of a pain in the ass, me coming up here to give him the range is going to allow Deathwraith to defend my Overlord and just destroy these Marines, because while Marines are decent against Stalkers in number, he just does not have the number to deal with these Stalkers. So Deathwraith is just going to keep poking out. He's going to be taking out Marines, and since I'm giving him this nice vision, he's going to be able to pop shots at these supply depots, things like that. So we're going to catch these roaches coming up, and even though Deathwraith does have a nice amount of stalkers, I mean, that's a lot of roaches and marines, and we're really not equipped right now to deal with it. So I'm going to get some roaches out to help back up his army, since I don't have enough roaches yet, because I did get that expansion, so I'm a little bit behind in my troop count. We're going to have to withdraw. So my 3 roaches and Deathwraith's growing number of stalkers do retreat for now, but I do have reinforcements on the way, and since I do have 2 bases, I'm going to be able to reinforce this fairly well, because I have a bigger econ pool than my Zerg opponent, and also my Terran opponent. So while they do have a lot of forces, we're going to be able to resupply. So Deathwraith does back off, and the reason he's backing off, and so am I, is because we want to get these roaches in the front of the stalkers. While I do have a lot less roaches, and they do have a lot of roaches themselves, we are single targeting our opponents. So we're going to be able to whittle down their forces a lot faster, and since my roaches soaked up a lot of the damage coming towards these stalkers, Deathwraith stalkers are going to be able to maul up what I can't. I'm going to send my Zerglings that were at my base for the initial harass down to try and finish off one of those roaches. I think they killed one of them. But these stalkers are going to be able to easily handle the rest, and we're going to back up. So they lost their entire force, and I lost all my roaches and most of my force, but we're still in a lot better shape than there are. Why? Because Deathwraith is expanding off the back of this, and they have yet to expand, and we have a growing force out here. I mean, look, he's got a pylon out here. He's already got a ton of stalkers, so this forget is really paying off, and I'm going to start backing up like mad to get him some more roaches. And it looks like they're trying to adapt. The Zerg is still going roaches, the same as me, so, and he's got 2 Evos down, but, oh yeah, he did upgrade his roaches. I didn't notice that. So his roaches are a little bit better off than mine are, but this Terran, he really doesn't know what he's going to do. I mean, he's kind of building all over the place. I mean, he's got a Banshee out, but he's not researching cloaking. He's got these Hellions out, and I think they have Blue Flame. Yeah, they have Blue Flame, but even though he's got Hellions out, I mean, I've got roaches. Hellions are good against light units, not biological. They don't get a bonus to bio units. They just get a bonus to light units. So those Hellions, I mean, while they're going to be annoying to deal with, my roaches aren't weak to them. I'm just going to chew them up. And Deathwraith just has this giant force of stalkers, and they aren't that good against dealing with stalkers. So as I keep reinforcing, trying to get these damn roaches out to him. Oh, there they are. I was wondering where my damn roaches were. Yeah, I've got kind of roaches just coming out everywhere periodically. But since I got these roaches just coming out, I mean, Deathwraith has this massive ball of Death Stalkers just that he won't be able to deal with, especially with these Hellions. We're just going to easily wipe them. I mean, if they engage us right now, it's stupid, and they will soon. And the Zerg is trying to get this base a little late. So that's really going to play in our favor. I mean, getting this early base a lot faster than our opponent has allowed me to econ a lot heavier. And even though it's been kind of hard for me to get roaches out, I mean, look at the amount I'm getting now. I just got this conga line of roaches that's coming across the map constantly. So I'm going to be able to just keep pumping out troops that my Zerg opponent won't be able to do. Why? Because I have way more mining. And here we go, just this engagement. I mean, look at these Hellions. While they do a lot of damage, they just aren't going to be able to stop us. I mean, roaches in the front of in the initial part of the engagement are the best idea, because even though I lose a lot of roaches, I mean, these stalkers can deal with anything, air or ground, and I can just keep backing it up with 2 base, while even though Deathwraith can back up rather quickly with his 4 warp gates, I can back up a lot faster than he can. And that's going to be the GG right there. So when you're in a situation where you're Zerg and Protoss, one of the best things you can do as a Zerg is to make sure that your partner has the time he needs to build up, because Protoss build up rather slowly, and you want to let the Protoss have enough time to build up, because Protoss in the end game, their units are ridiculous. ridiculous. So if you get that early map control, you do a 10 pull. Don't be too aggressive with it and don't overcommit. Just do a 10 pull so that you can get a little bit of either harassment out or map control and then expand off of it. You're going to be in the clear. Why? Because while you're trying to get that second base popped up and saturated, your Protoss is going to start being able to pop out enough troops to defend you. Because that initial push is going to cause them to start turtling, it's going to start causing them to freak out about what they can do, and they're going to start making mistakes, because nothing is more frightening than not knowing what your opponent is doing at your front door, especially when they're all over your front door. Now that is the first game, me as Zerg, and Deathwraith as Protoss. And here we are at part 2. Now, I am spawning as the Terran, just like I said I would. And Deathwraith, as always, is going to be spawning as the Protoss. And we're going to be against a Protoss and a Zerg team. And I believe when we launched into this game, we did not know what one of the opponents was. I think we didn't know who the Protoss was. We knew we were fighting a Zerg. So we are going to have to get that early scanning out, because you don't want a random opponent to ruin your day, especially if it's 2 Zerg and you get double 10 pulled. So since we already know we have a Zerg opponent, we're going to both get that wall off extremely early on. Because if you don't have a Zerg opponent, you really don't need to wall off. I mean, it's not that important. I mean, a lot of Terran wall off all the time. But, I mean, when you're against an opponent like Protoss and Terran, and you are a Terran, you don't really need to wall off. There's no point, because it puts a lot of your supply depots in danger, and you can build a lot faster when you build things closer to your base. So, I'm going to be building a 9 supply depot, as opposed to a 10 supply depot. A lot of Terran, and most Terran strategies that you see online will tell you to do 10 depot, but I do the 9 depot, because I can get this racks out a lot faster. I mean, you can pop it right after the supply depot goes down. I'm a little late because I'm trying to direct my scout, who's being really, really dumb. But yeah, I mean, you can just drop this down really fast, and it's especially useful when you're coming against a Zerg. And since I know a Zerg is here, I want to get this wall off completed as fast as possible. So I'm going to be actually committing another SCV to completing the wall off, and that's because Deathwraith spotted this pull. Now, since we know this, we see the pull is about halfway done, we know it's an early pull. It's going to be about a 10 or 11 pull, so we're thinking an early rush is coming down, and that's why I committed a second SCV to this wall, because if you don't see an early pull by the Zerg, there's really no need to rush the wall. But since we see it coming down, I really want to get this completed, so I don't have to worry about speedlings in my base, and Deathwraith is also going to be trying to get his Zealot out quickly so he doesn't have to deal with speedlings in his base. So he's just going to be poking around constantly, like I am too. We're just putting our scouts on patrol, just back and forth. It's really something that you can do a lot of the time, because they're just going to stop bothering you after a while. I always recommend to put them on scouting, because it's really annoying for your opponent to deal with, and plus it gives you that extra time to scout out, and you don't have to really worry about it. You can just set it and forget it. So I'm going to be getting out Marines as early as possible, because we did see that 10 pull, and I want to get Marines behind this wall as fast as possible so I can take out any Zerglings that try to poke up here, even though that would be suicide at this point, because even though I only have 1 Marine, Speedlings just die to Marine fire, especially when they're behind this wall, and I can get SCVs to repair this wall, so it'll just stop them from getting through. So I'm just going to, constantly push up Marines, a nice little, constant supply of them throughout the game, and I'm going to get my second racks down. Now, since we are going against Zerg and Protoss, I'm going to go for a 3 racks opener as opposed to a mech opening. Why? Because we saw the 10 pull down, so we know that the Zerg is probably going to get a lot of speedlings out, and tanks, while they are great at firing and defending your base, they really don't do that well when they get surrounded, and it's really intense. It's really, mineral and Vespian intense to get those tanks out, so it's a lot cheaper to just build a shitload of Marines and Marauders for the opening push, and then I can tech up into tanks if I feel like it, or go air. So I'm going to get the second racks out, and then I'm going to drop a tech lab on it. And the reason I'm going to get the tech lab out is because we have a Protoss opponent, and Protoss, while they are really strong, have a really big weakness to Marauders, especially when you're going for a 4-gate like this, because that usually means Stalkers, and while Stalkers are a great unit, Marauders with Concussive Shell just wreck their day. They have a special advantage against armored units, so if the Zerg goes Roaches, I'll also be strong and be able to easily take them out as well. So that's why I'm getting this Tech Lab down, and I'm going to get Concussive Shell and my first Marauder out as fast as possible. So you can see I'm getting that Concussive Shell down, my Marauder's coming out, and I'm getting my third racks out, because I want to be able to get a nice army to defend against a big opening push, which we know is coming. I mean, with a 10 pull, you're either going to get that map control, or I'm going to push early, and since we did spot the early 4-gate as well, we know that our opponents are not playing around. They want to hit our front door relatively soon. So I'm just trying to get as many units as possible, and I'm also getting this reactor down. Why? Because Deathwraith saw this proxy pylon, so we know that the push is coming soon. because he got these pylons around his base and he was able to see out to see this proxy. I mean, this is a nice proxy pawn because it's close, but its position is relatively close to the edge of his base, and if you're a good player, you're going to be able to spot this pylon and take it out, which is exactly what Deathwraith is about to do. And they decide, since we already spot the cheese, they're going to just already push out and try to hit us. So they're going to go for Deathwraith. The reason they're going for Deathwraith is because Protoss have a little bit harder time against walling off, so it's a lot weaker of a wall, as opposed to turning to completely wall off and just drop the supply depot. So Zerglings try to poke at me, but then I just poke out, but Stalkers and Zerglings, I don't have enough troops to really deal with that many units, and they're just going to whittle me down, just taking out my Marines as they go. I do accidentally continue to rally my damn units to these Zerglings who are just going to mop them up, so I raise my supply depot and start reinforcing again to help Deathwraith. Now, Deathwraith is in a bit of trouble. While he did deal with the Protoss fairly well, these Zerglings are just going to get a nice surround and be able to mop him up, but they're just too weak to deal with him, the Stalkers he has. So Deathwraith is right now going to have to do a lot of the defending, and he's going to have a lot of dead troops. So he's just going to be keep back and forthing, and that's going to give me time to get Marines and Marauders out to help him. So I'm going to keep poking out back and forth. It's just kind of a dance. We're just doing a dance, just a back and forth between us and the opponent. So I got some Marines and Marauders out. Deathwraith does have a couple of Stalkers and a Zealot, but these Zerglings are just going to start coming up. I cannot deal with this amount of Zerglings with the forces I have. So Deathwraith is going to get some Zealots on the low ground to buy some time, allowing his Stalkers to take safe pot shots, while his Zealots just take a brutal beating. I mean, Zealots are very strong in their own. I mean, look how many Zerglings they took out before they fell. I mean, Zealots are just awesome at killing Zerglings. And he's going to try to poke my wall, but I don't really understand why I did that, because I am safely behind these supply depots, and I just mop up a couple more Zerglings. Now, they are just going to start breaking into Deathwraith's wall, so I'm just like, oh, hell no. And I just finally dropped my supply depot. I didn't want to go too early to let those Zerglings keep harassing me, but this was a little bit later than I liked to, because, I mean, Deathwraith is going to lose, unfortunately, a pylon, and that means the gateway is going to drop. But I'm going to come in for the rescue as he deals with these Zerglings with his probes. I mean, Zerglings are nice and annoying, but probes can easily just mop them up. And now I just have too many damn Marines for the Protoss to deal with. So while Deathwraith deals with these Zerglings in his base, I'm going to push out and destroy this proxy pylon that the Protoss still has, because we already killed the first one, and I want to make sure I get the second one so they don't just keep hitting us. And now he does get this probe out, and I didn't see the probe at the time because I was concentrating on too many other things, but he did drop another proxy, so this Protoss is really trying to get this harass out. But we're going to be scouting around to try to get these proxies out, because when a Protoss pushes really hard and early like this, he's either going to expand off it or go for straight to DTs, and it doesn't look like he's transitioning to DTs. He's going for the expand, so it looks like he's just trying to use this initial push as a means to get a better econ than us a lot faster, and then to push out a little bit later in the game. So we're not going to have that. When you get pushed like this and it fails, as theirs did, even though they did a lot of damage, and even though they pushed us into a corner and they were able to expand off this and start getting ahead in the economy department, we know that this push was really devastating to them and their troop supply. I mean, even though they have a lot of troops, they're not coming back. So we're going to actually make a pushback as fast as possible, because we want to stop this harassment here. We don't want to overcommit the defenses. We don't want to give them the time to build up. So we're going to push back as fast as possible. And we should have pushed out a little bit sooner than we do, but things working on our favor. Deathwraith is going for Zealots. We already know that the Zerg is really committed to these Speedlings, and so he's probably going to be going to Speedling Infester. And I think that's exactly what he's doing. It's a great tactic, especially when you have Protoss backup, because when you get a ton of Speedlings like this, you can just surround your opponent and give your Infestors the time they need to get those Fungals growth down, which is just devastating to my Marine and Marauders. And that's exactly what the Zerg is trying to do. He's trying to counter my Marines and Marauders, because he can get Infestors out a lot faster than the Protoss can get out those Kalos. And because of that, he's going for the counter to my units. Now, the Protoss really isn't trying to counter anything, but he is getting a nice amount of sentries out. You're going to see him getting a lot more sentries out, and I really don't understand why he's getting sentries out. I mean, we don't have Speedlings that he really needs to overly commit force fields to. I mean, Guardian Shields are great and all, but, I mean, sentries, while they are an amazing unit when they get hallucinate and everything like that, getting them out in bulk like this really isn't going to do much for their forces, especially to what we have. I mean, we got a ton of Zealots right here, which are going to be in front of my Marines and Marauders. This is a great composition. When you are fighting an opponent who has Zerglings in masses like this, Zealots are great for being a shield to anything else, because it takes a ridiculous amount of Zergling damage to even take out one Zealot. So because Deathwraith can pump out Zealots and he is behind in the gas because of that initial cheesing, I'm going to get Marines and Marauders who are just going to sit right behind Deathwraith's Zealots and mop up our opponents while he takes the brunt of the force. So he's tanking, and I am doing the damage from a range. So I did see that Zealot. I don't know why I just poked out one Zealot instead of just building an army over here. But, you know, whatever, to each his own. I'm going to take out that pylon and then just go about my business. I tell Deathwraith to check his expansion too because, I mean, Protoss have, you know, that really annoying means of just pumping out random hidden pylons to just screw you over, so you never can be too careful. So he pokes out, he doesn't see shit, so we're just like, you know what, we really don't want to wait. He starts pumping out a Forge, a Twilight Council, and he's up to 5 gateways, and he's getting out a lot of pylons because we're just like, you know what, let's push and end this. And he's going to be getting that charge tech, and he's going to be getting that attack +1, because nothing is more annoying for Zerglings to deal with than stupid Zealots and their stupidly powerful attack +1. I mean, Zealots on their own are just ridiculous when fighting Zerglings with just the regular attack. Giving them attack +1 is just allowing them to mop them up that much quicker. So we are going to try and do some micro right here, get more of the Zealots in front, because the Zealots are the wall to my army. I'm going to start reinforcing and just keep my stream of Marines and Marauders going. I have 2 reactors down. The reason I have so many reactors down is simple. I want to get as many Marines as possible, and I was going for either Medivacs or I was thinking about doing some harassment with some Banshees, but we're not going to have time for that because here goes the engagement. Now, these Zerglings, he could easily have destroyed us. These Zerglings would have been way too much for us to deal with, but the stupid Protoss bites their team in the ass. I mean, look at that. The fungal does go down, but these force fields just stop the Zerglings from getting the surround they desperately need. And because those force fields, those infestors just had to get way too close to my forces to get a fungal off. And his new infestor is not going to have enough energy to get a fungal off. He only got 1 off. If he had gotten 2 fungals off, my forces would have been doomed, and this would have failed, and we probably would have been saying GG. But these force fields just allowed Deathwraith to get that nice protection against the Zergling surround, and he was able to just mop up an amazing amount behind my Marine fire, and I was able to kill these infestors off, and that is just going to devastate them. The Protoss has lost all of his troops, even though he's had a lot of gateways, he's not able to build up enough. This one pylon was producing 3 of his helping to power 3 of his gateways. With that down, he's not going to be able to reinforce remotely as fast as we are, and we're going to go for the Protoss first because, I mean, the Protoss without a lot of his backed up gateways is going to be the weaker link. He's not going to be able to do much, and we want to make sure that one of them is crippled. Even though the Zerg can make all these speed things and expand off of this, he's just not going to be able to deal with us on his own. So taking out the Protoss like that is a great idea, and he does go in for one final attack, but he cannot get this surround. I have just too many Marines and Marauders, and they're just too kind of spread out on this ramp. This really crappy formation for him to get a nice, good surround and do enough damage. And that's going to be the GG. Now, we would have been in a lot of trouble. This was actually a great tactic. If you do see a lot of Marines and Marauders, the good tactic to go for as a Zerg is to go Speedlings into Infestors. Why? Because Speedlings will just buy the time your Infestors need to get in and fungal, just destroying the Marines and Marauders that are balled up. It's a great tactic. The Zerg was playing this really well. He was a Gold and Platinum League player, and this Protoss was a Silver and Gold League player, so they were good opponents, and they did have a decent idea, but the Protoss just overstepped his bounds and destroyed the Zerg's tactic of getting that surround to assist their forces by force-fielding the Zealots into a perfect little concave that helped Deathwraith just deal with those Zerglings and allowed me to deal with those infestors as soon as they got close. And that gave us the GG. Now, I hope you enjoyed this game, these 2 games, because, I mean, like I promised, I was going to roll different races, and I'm actually going to be doing this a lot more often. You will see me as Protoss, but you'll also be seeing me as Terran and Zerg, because what I've been rolling now in 2v2 is random. I find it is a lot more helpful, and it's a lot more fun to do. It's more helpful because it really puts your opponent in the position where they don't know what's coming, and it makes them have to go for tactics that either like push up a lot of defenses in anticipation of something that is not going to happen, or it's really helpful in the other aspect as it just makes them commit to stupid tactics and builds before actually getting that scouting done, because when an opponent doesn't scout you, you have that advantage of surprise. And also, it's a lot more fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun than just being a wild card and adapting to the game, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing from now on. So there you are, your 2 scrub plays of the day. This is Token Gaijin signing out. See you next time, nerds.